Hello, Tenno. Now today we're going to have a brief look at the new room, Dagath's Hollow. Sit back, relax, let's get into it. So the first thing to consider is where we can fit this new room. And for this we're going to use Dojo CAD built by Buffoon. Absolutely incredible program, helps you visualize your entire dojo layout. Excellent tool. For anyone using the grid structure for the dojo, you can substitute out one of these 6-door rooms and insert a Dagath lab. I will say we'll only meet up with another single door entrance. If you try to put it on a wall with 2 doors, the bounding box is too big and it will hit the next room over. This is going to be a recurring problem throughout most of the placements I'm going to show you in this video. A lot of decorators use this linear layout. This is essentially a sequence of chaining rooms with their little auxiliary connectors that you can attach other rooms to. Now in this top configuration, where there are only one auxiliary connection per 6-door room, the Dagath room is really easy to place. You essentially just treat it like another 6-door room. You try to place it one node over, it's clearly going to be within the bounding box of that open space, and so you know it can't fit there, even using the in-game only tool. Where you may run into issues is if you have the configuration like at the bottom, where there are 2 auxiliary connections per single 6-door room. Here, there are spaces in-game that looks like the Dagath room should be able to fit in, but its expansive bounding box means it won't. Now, it isn't only open space that you might run into trouble with this room. Because of its large bounding box, it just does not like sharing adjacent nodes. If you were to look at any of these connections in-game, i.e. look at only the grey on this diagram, you would assume that it can go next to any lab, any garden, because they're quite small. The reality is, its large bounding box means it can't go next to any of these. Now, a quick little side note before we move on. It is worth knowing that the bash lab and any hallway are small enough to go on adjacent nodes. So after you've picked your location, you then need to fund the room, put the cost on screen, and the room is going to give your dojo 10k affinity. You'll notice when you go to the console in this room, you can get Dagath and her weapons without having to research them prior. Now this does mean that this research does not give clan affinity, but it also means there's no crazy spiraling costs for larger clans just to get the research in the dojo in the first place. You just turn up and buy the blueprints with credits. Okay, so we've got everything built. Now it's time to see what we're working with. So from the entrance to the farthest wall on the internal space, you get about 48 meters. And at its widest point, i.e. from the Dagath stable to the other little alcove, get around 32 meters. It's a pretty sizable room. And in terms of actually getting out of bounds to try and exploit more space, I don't think it's particularly worth it. The outside space is full of invisible walls. There isn't too many windows to actually see from inside anyway, except these like broken out bits of walls on the alcoves. But overall, it's probably not worth the capacity to put too much out there. Now the next segment is thankfully incredibly brief, and it's about red zones. And the reason it's brief is because I only found 3. One of them is the location of the Prex card. The other one is the station where you get the lore from grandmother. And the final one is the Dagath. Obviously all these are red zones because they're interactable. Everywhere else in the room is fair game. Weirdly, the console where you claim Dagath isn't a red zone. So if you were feeling a little bit cheeky and you were to put a decoration over it, you could block your clanmates from claiming her. Don't do that, it's kind of mean. Now the last thing I want to talk about today is the room lighting. we start with room colors. Usually these interact with actual objects within the room. So they might color some of the panels or they'll color the flooring. In this room, they work differently. They kind of do color washes over the whole room. So I'm not going to go through every permutation, but this is something that you're going to want to experiment with. We just select some random colors here. You can see how different elements in the environment are getting picked out. A really cool system. Now the setting labeled lights on this option menu, you can totally ignore. You can affect some of the lighting in the room, but you do it from a different place. For our second menu of lighting options, we're going to look at lighting colors. Our first option on here is key lighting. Now what the key lighting is going to change is the lights that are cast within the room. So the lights from like the candles and the lights from the light fittings on the ceiling. Now, they don't change the light source color exactly, just the cast light coming off them. Now the accent in this room is what's going to set the overall tone. This is the setting that will affect those exterior god beams coming in through the window. Now the final setting in this room is fog. I will say some of the more subtle fogs work really well in this room. It suits the creepy atmosphere. Pay attention to areas where you can see through into the skybox. You're going to notice them stand out because they'll be jet black with no shading or anything. And to get rid of these, simply put a decoration in front of them. The fog will then mask whatever you put there. Now I'm going to be honest with you, there are a couple of things that I have omitted from this review on purpose. Things like the soundscape, a couple of the little unique things that only happen in this room. Obviously, whenever a new lab is added, it's a good excuse to go and check out your own dojo, see what your architects have been up to. Any likes, comments, and shares on this video is massively appreciated. Peace out, and I'll catch you in the next one.